And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic is for Saturday morning, and we've got some IFR here for the western Aleutians out there from near Kiska on to the west there. Otherwise, marginal VFR here for the eastern Aleutians into the western Alaska Peninsula. You pick up some more IFR there, as well as up over the southwest part of the state, Togiak Bay, maybe Dillingham, into the hills there, and along the western Alaska Range. Another patch up there in the central Arctic coast, and then there's IFR here right up into the eastern interior, mostly along or just north of the Alaska Range. And for the eastern Kenai Peninsula and the western Prince William Sound, and for the southeast coast, looks like the northern areas, they'll see some IFR. And then for the afternoon, a little bit of marginal, or a little bit of IFR slides into Prince of Wales Island here. Marginal VFR central panhandle, IFR farther to the north, extending west to Yakutat. And we've got some marginal VFR now for Prince William Sound, with mostly VFR here for the interior south of the Brooks Range there. Some marginal VFR possibly into the northern Koyukuk Valley. And IFR though for the North Slope, or along the Brooks Range there. Some of that could get into the North Slope, but then improving out toward the Arctic coast, you can see becoming VFR. And for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, marginal VFR seems to be the rule, with some IFR there on the Bering Sea side, or Bristol Bay side of the Alaska Peninsula. VFR, St. Lawrence Island, all the way down to Nunivak Island. And for the morning hours Sunday, got a lot of marginal VFR again for the Aleutians and much of the Bering Sea. Some IFR here over the southwest interior. Also up along the northwest coast on down to the north side of the Seward Peninsula. Eastern North Slope, Arctic Coast, Brooks Range, IFR. Another band here down toward Eagle near the Yukon River, extending into the upper Yukon Valley. VFR, central interior. IFR, they're back for western Prince William Sound again. And looks like a lot of IFR there for the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, improvement down here, especially over the southern panhandle. Things could become VFR with IFR lingering for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Marginal VFR in areas here across southern Alaska right out into northeastern Bristol Bay. Another area of possible marginal VFR up over the northeast part of the state, eastern Brooks Range. Big improvement out over the Bering Sea, the Aleutians, VFR, all the way into the Alaska Peninsula. Just some marginal VFR for St. Matthew Island and the Pribilofs. And for passes, Anatuvik, IFR tomorrow, and possibly marginal VFR for Adigan. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, look for occasional marginal VFR, but rainy should be VFR as well as windy. VFR for Isabel. And from Intesta, VFR, and Tanita, going optimistic forecast here. VFR, either approach for Tanita Pass. And for Portage, looking for some improvement. Marginal VFR becoming VFR, possibly by late morning, extending through the afternoon. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR with moisture sliding up from the south there, probably going IFR, especially during the afternoon hours. And for the freezing levels, we've got 2,000 feet here, right along the northern panhandle and Yakutat area. And from there, taking a look at the icing graphic. There we go. Again, with heaviest moisture pushing into the southeast coast here and working northward, that's where you'll see the heaviest chance of some icing, especially down to the south there and a little bit up here to the north, all below about 12,000 feet, and then moisture extending westward across the Gulf into Kodiak Island, the Kenai Peninsula. Another batch of possible icing here over Bristol Bay and also along the Brooks Range up there, as well as the western Aleutians from about Adak westward. And then for the jet stream, not a lot to look at here. Pretty slack flow here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, as well as the interior and the panhandle. You can see the main jet down here, well south, kind of blowing into the southwestern part of British Columbia. And then for the 9,000 foot winds, a little bit more of a breeze here over the southeast coast there, but still the strongest winds off to the southeast. And now seeing some easterly winds picking up about 25 knots at 9,000 feet as you come down in elevation there for the central and west central Arctic coast. Otherwise, continued light winds out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for 3,000 feet, a big increase in the winds here from 9,000 feet. You see 55 knots there from about Point Lay on down toward possibly Point Hope, more likely Cape Lisburne, with 40-knot winds extending all the way back to the east there. And then Brooks Range southward here, light winds, maybe some 40-knot winds in areas of the southeast coast. And from there, looking at turbulence, those windier conditions, 3,000 feet, look for possible or isolated to isolated moderate turbulence possible here, or light to isolated moderate for the area from Dixon Entrance, all of the Panhandle to Yakutat, possibly there along the eastern North Gulf Coast. The best chance of seeing some significant turbulence will be up there along the Arctic coast and to a lesser extent the North Slope. Otherwise looking pretty smooth out to the west.